Thanks for tuning in to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines a shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Oates. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. I've been reading from a book titled What an Owl Knows by Jennifer Ackerman. It was gifted to me by my husband because of my growing love for owls. I don't take it for granted that owls live in our neighborhood. In fact, each evening as the sun sets, I step outside and I say, "Hello, owls, I love you." And then I stay still and listen for their calls back and forth between mates. Sometimes I'm blessed with a silent swoop and fly over. Okay, now imagine my shock when one evening in early November, an owl spoke back. "Hello," it said in a croaky voice, which caused me to question my sanity. Then it happened again, and once more. Then a flock of noisy Canadian geese flew overhead and broke the trance. But the voice in the tree I'd heard, it mimicked the sounds of the geese. It took flight from a nearby tree, buzzed right past me. Yes, it was an owl. Well, I texted my precious soul sisters, Kate and Molly. Then the next day, I got busy researching owls and mimicry. I found my answer. It was an adolescent eastern screech owl, known at that age to be highly experimental with their vocalizations. They're learning how to lure in potential prey by sounding like kin. And this one was practicing. The event made me fall even deeper in love with these awesome birds. They deserve the dedicated episode. If you're still on the fence about them, well, while researching, I found this passage from the Owl Pages online, and I couldn't fashion a better introduction to this subject than what writer Dean Lewis wrote. Quote, "Throughout history and across many cultures, people have regarded owls with fascination and awe. Few other creatures have so many different and contradictory beliefs about them. Owls have been both feared and venerated, despised and admired, considered wise and foolish, and associated with witchcraft and medicine, the weather, birth, and death. Speculation about owls began in earliest folklore, too long ago to date, but passed down by word of mouth over generations." End quote. I have the good luck to have regular visits from a few different species of owls, and they have delighted, surprised, and mystified me personally this year. From Karina Bissett comes this comprehensive blog post about owl lore among Native American tribes. I encourage you to click on the link in the show notes and experience for yourself the art that she wove into her article. It is exceptional, hypnotic, and comes from artist Susan Seddon-Boulay. Karina Bissett, though, in the article writes, "I spent 19 years exploring southwestern deserts and the stories of the native peoples who live there. It didn't take long to learn that certain stories are only told in the winter when the world is at rest. Stories about owls fall into this category. Seeing as it's snowing in Colorado, it seems as though this is the time to share a few of my favorites gathered during my desert years, which seem so far away they might have happened to another person entirely." Oh my gosh, I love her intro. Then she gives us a Pima song. "There came a gray owl at sunset. There came a gray owl at sunset. Hooting softly around me, he brought terror to my heart." Terror poised on a tree branch, she continues. He swoops silently out of the shadows upon a victim, unaware of his presence until, with a thudding impact, powerful talons crush its flesh, a curved beak flashes, a quivering end to one life brings sustenance to another. Owl's extraordinary nocturnal hunting abilities have inspired more fear, reverence, and storytelling among Native Americans than almost any other figurative animal but coyote. Nearly universal among tribal lore, owl tales reveal a sharp eye for ecological detail and a complex worldview embedded in the intricate weave of Native American storytelling. With fringe-like leading-edge wing feathers that muffle the turbulent sound of wind rushing, owls descend in eerie silence upon their prey, and with a retina equipped with an abundance of rod cells, their eyes capture light for nighttime hunting. As such, these capabilities are often linked to Native Americans' tales of death and ghosts. Yet, stories about owl also reveal complicated tribal worldviews in which traditional Western societal concepts of good and evil give way to ambiguous, contradictory, and unpredictable forces of nature. Feathered ghost, protector of abused children, transformed monster, part witch, part keeper of souls, Father Owl assumes a baffling array of fierce yet wisely just disguises in tribal stories. He's often used as a spiritual foil to illustrate the value of reverence, obedience, and proper behavior, making him a favorite in the instructive world of children's bedtime stories. Parents receive instruction right along with their children. For instance, in a tale told by the Tiwa people, a disobedient boy sneaks out at night to watch his elders in the kiva. His father catches him, beats him with a stick, and sends him into the darkness where the boy cries and moans. Father Owl glides out of the night and lands before the child. He instructs the boy to get on his back. Father Owl carries the child back to his nest, which is filled with his own owl fledglings. "This is your new home," says Father Owl. "I took you away from your mother and father because they were always scolding you." When the boy's parents discover their son is missing, they regret beating him and begin searching for their lost child. After a time, seeing the parents nearly dead from despair, Father Owl lets the child return to his home on the high pueblo. At first, the boy's parents don't recognize him. He has started growing feathers, and his eyes are turning yellow like his owl brothers and sisters. Father Owl tells the parents that the boy must stay in a locked room for 4 days. After sunset on the 4th day, they may look in, but if they open the door before then, the boy will belong to the owls forever. Eager to see her son, though, the mother can't wait, and on the morning of the 5th day, she peeks into the room. That night, when the parents open the door, they find not their son, but a large owl flying from one corner to the other. Overcome with sadness, the father says, "My poor boy, your mother was bad for looking too soon, and now you are an owl." The owl nods. "But if the enemy approaches or sickness is coming, you may come and warn the people," the father says, and the owl, who was once a boy, flies off into the night. So rather than simply concluding that children should always obey their parents, that story illustrates why parents should not whip their children. It also explains why an owl's call is often taken as a warning. All southwestern Native American tribes have similarly complex and usually foreboding stories about Owl, who often serves as a specter to keep willful children in line. In the Mountaintop Way, a Navajo ceremonial tale, Owl Boy's human mother abandons him because of his fearsome nature. Spurned and rejected, Owl Boy kills a member of his tribe when he attempts to return to his Navajo family. The narrator intones, "He went to them, but they were afraid of him. His big eyes, his long sharp fingernails, his voice that sounded like the wind playing a flute in a hollow tree." Many of these Native American tales use this fierce night-haunting predator to illustrate themes dealing with death, with witchcraft and prophecy. The owl's ghostly approach, keen vision, and eerie nighttime habits prey on humankind's fear of the dark and the unseen. Moreover, the author goes on, the owl's strident, discordant vocabulary chills the soul and enhances its nocturnal image as a caller of death and singer of bad omens. In fact, the Apache and Navajo believe that a hooting owl portends death and destruction. Historical records contain accounts of war parties or detachments of Apache scouts who would not fight if they heard owls nearby. To this day, many Navajo will delay a journey if they see an owl near their hogan, and if an owl calls a person's name, they are warned that their death is near. In a similar fashion, Mojave and Tohono O'odham stories suggest owls are sacred as they often carry the souls of the dead. Many southwestern cultures tell grim stories to account for owls' origins. For instance, one Navajo tale says that the owl is the child of one of the many monsters that once roamed the earth. In the Navajo creation story, Monster Slayer kills two winged giants called Tesnahale, which lived in Shiprock. After killing the adults, Monster Slayer transforms one of their bloodthirsty offspring into the first eagle and the other one into an owl's form to keep these monstrous children from harming the Navajo people in the future. Monster Slayer predicts owl's nature and his place in Navajo lore. Quote, "In days to come, men will listen to your voice to know what will be their future. Sometimes you will tell the truth and sometimes you will lie." End quote. That note of ambiguity captures the complex, the flexible, and realistic role that animates owl in many similar tales. The oldest owl fossils in North America date back some 60 million years to specimens discovered in the Colorado Plateau. Of the 133 specimens of owls found worldwide today, only 19 species live in North America. Southern Arizona, being the northernmost migratory range for several owls, it's home to 13 species, more than any region in the US or Canada. Unlike most birds, though, the owl sees exceptionally well in dim light. Moreover, the owl's plate-shaped face acts like a radar dish, catching faint sounds in a wide range of frequencies. The owl's hearing is so acute, it often locates its prey in the dark undergrowth by sound alone, perching and hooting to panic mice and rabbits into betraying their position. Another interesting ability of the owl is the ability to swivel its head 270 degrees. This gives the bird a wider range of motion to detect prey without giving away its position. Add to these the owl's ability for ghostly flight, thanks to the serrated edges of its leading feathers and the muffling effect of its downy surface feathers, and you get a most successful predator. Native Americans in the Southwest made adroit use of many of these remarkable qualities. For instance, the Hopis use owl feathers to make arrows fly silently so they can strike without warning, and Tohono O'odham medicine men, called owl meters, use the bird's uncanny powers to stay unseen in order to ambush their enemies. The warriors would implore Gray Owl Medicine Man, "Come with me. Yonder find my enemy and make him helpless." The Hopis also venerate the great horned owl, a protector of peach orchards, as owls keep rodent populations in check. The great horned owl also plays a prominent role in the Hopi Cassina pantheon. However, as a symbol of the dark, this bird's feathers are not used on prayer sticks, interestingly, which are offerings to the sun. In the end, the picture of an owl that emerges from the fascinating wealth of tales remains as complicated, as imaginative, and mixed as the world itself. One of the most interesting and delightfully ambiguous tales is the Zuni story explaining how the world was divided into light and dark. In this tale, echoed in the stories of many other cultures, the birds and the beasts played a game to set the pattern of day and night. The birds played for day, for like human beings, most birds are creatures of the daylight. The beasts, though, played for night, the time when the mountain lion and other predatory mammals rule. However, one swap was made before the game began. Squirrel took the side of the daylight-loving birds, and owl played with the night-loving beasts. The game went on from dusk to dawn, with each side trying to guess where the other had hidden a set of sacred sticks. As the sun came up, the birds had the most sticks, and so they won the sun's daylight. Bear ran off for the cover of darkness, and in his hurry, he put his moccasins on the wrong feet, and Mountain Lion's fur was tinted golden with the sun. Only his mouth stayed black to show his connection to the night. Meanwhile, the war twins chastised Owl for playing with the beasts. "You have not stayed among the winged creatures," said the children of the sun. "You have made a mistake. Therefore, you have lost the sun's daylight." To this day, Owl prowls his dark domain, the soul of the night and the keeper of secrets. But sometimes if you listen closely, you may hear a warning in his haunted lament. "I am the owl. I sit on the spruce tree. My coat is gray. I have big eyes. My head has 2 points. The white smoke from my tobacco can be seen as I sit on the spruce tree. The little rabbit comes into sight nearby where I sit on the spruce tree. I think soon my claws will get into his back as I sit on the spruce tree. Now it is dawn. Now it is dawn. The old man's owl head has 2 points. He has big yellowish eyes. We see white smoke from his tobacco. Ho, 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 ho." That is a Navajo song. Here are a few more tidbits about Native American lore regarding owls from the internet. In Native American lore, owls have often been associated with death, the spirit world, and a deep wisdom, with many tribes believing that owls can carry souls of the deceased, act as messengers between worlds, and are a symbol of powerful insight due to their exceptional night vision. Depending on the tribe, seeing an owl can be interpreted as a bad omen or a sign of protection from a guardian spirit. Key points about owl lore across different tribes. So here's death and the afterlife. Many tribes like the Apache, Cherokee, and Lakota believe owls are connected to death, with an owl sighting sometimes signifying a coming death or the spirit of a deceased person. In regards to spirit guides and wisdom, some tribes like the Dakota and Lenape view owls as protective spirits or guardian guides, symbolizing wisdom and the ability to see beyond the physical realm. In regards to soul carriers, certain tribes like the Pima believe that when someone dies, their soul enters the body of a great horned owl. Gosh, I hope so. Here's symbolic meanings that some tribes have. That a great horned owl often is considered to be the most powerful owl spirit, representing wisdom and the ability to see into the unseen. With screech owls, they can be associated with illness or punishment in some tribes. Specific examples of owl stories? Navajo legend believe that owls are children of monstrous beings and that seeing an owl near your dwelling can be a warning of impending danger. The Hopi people associate owls with the underworld and believe they can help with growing crops like peaches. The Creek tribe believes that great horned owls represent divine wisdom, but if their shadow crosses you, it can be considered a curse. Owls have been featured in European folklore and legends for centuries, and their roles have varied across cultures and time periods. wisdom and protection. In ancient Rome and some other European cultures, owls were considered to represent wisdom and protection from evil spirits. Spirit guides. In Norse mythology, owls were thought to be spirit guides who led souls to the afterlife. As Catholicism, though, spread across Europe, owls became associated with witches and evil. In many European cultures, owls were considered to be bearers of deathly omens. For example, in Polish folklore, an owl cry near a home was thought to mean impending death or misfortune. In Slavic folklore, the sight of an owl was often thought to foretell significant events. In the Lorraine region of France, owls were thought to help spinsters find husbands. Oh my gosh, that has to be the funniest one yet. In Romania, it was believed that the souls of repentant sinners flew to heaven as snowy owls. Owls have also been featured in the folklore of many other cultures, including Japan, Central Asia, and of course North America. The owl was believed to keep its eyes on the walker until it wrung its own neck. Fantastic eyesight is another owl attribute, and the English thought they could steal this by cooking the bird's eggs into ash and then making a potion from it. Musician and writer Joe Gioia attended college in Ohio, and a surprise encounter with an owl made him a lifelong devotee. Joe writes, "I attended a small college in central Ohio, an assortment of Gothic stone buildings dotting a leafy rural hilltop. Early one evening my senior year, I made my way to a lookout point with a view of a small river's valley, a panorama of dairy pastures interlaced with stands of trees. Having the view all to myself, I settled into an absorbed contemplation of the nearly timeless view before me when there came from behind the weirdest sound I'd ever heard before or since. It was a kind of short, hideous barking, definitely demonic and very loud. Startled to say the least, I spun around and soon saw the source of the weird cry. In the top branches of an ash tree, about 40 feet above me, was a dark and hulking creature. It was an enormous great horned owl, clearly scanning the picturesque river valley for dinner. I've been kind of gaga about owls ever since. Because they are mainly creatures of the night, owls inhabit vast tracts of the human imagination, while other birds have abiding places in the realms of symbolism and myth. Odin's raven, Noah's dove, and the baby-bringing stork, to name but three. No bird has come to signify more things to more people than the owl. So in honor of that awesome bird that allowed me a glimpse of the truly wild, let's take flight into the realms of myth and storytelling with humanity's most attentive avian companion. Joe continues his story. Right from the start, the most distinctive features of owls, unique among avian species, are two forward-facing eyes set in a round, relatively flat face. While the look isn't exactly human, neither is it classically bird-like. In the animal kingdom, binocular vision is a feature common to all land-based predators, cats, canines, and everyone in the ape family, while prey species get by with two, mostly independent orbs, one on each side of their faces, and scan as much ground as possible for any forward-facing menace. It was perhaps in recognition of this quasi-human feature that Indo-European cultures named the owl in terms of how it spoke to them. In English, for example, owl is descended from the Old Norse ugla, and earlier Old Teutonic words that are, as noted by the Oxford English Dictionary, derived from the voice of the bird. The Old English name ule dates from 725 CE and is also connected to his favorite, the Latin noctus ulale, which we can translate as night howl. And yes, howl and owl are very much related. But why stop there, he asks. In German, the bird is called Eule. In French, hibou, pronounced hebou, so I mispronounced it. Spanish is boo-ho. Italian, another fave, is gufo. In Hindi, Ulu. Simply put, we've been listening to owls for as long as we've been human beings. It is logical then that people have wondered what exactly it is they have to say to us. Perhaps the penetrating nature of their wide eyes, or how they can sit so calmly just watching things, gave owls the mythic characteristic of wisdom in the West. Their remarkable ability to rotate their heads 270 degrees would have also added to that legend. In recognition of this apparent sagacity, the Athenian Greeks made a small owl the favorite of Athena, their goddess of wisdom. Representations of her commonly show the familiar animal perched on her shoulder. In recognition of its presumed qualities of great knowledge and vigilance, the Athenians put the owl on its coins, a guarantor of honest and prudent trade. That the bird Americans chose to place on their currency, the bald eagle, has a similar symbolic appeal to commerce. Vigilance, honesty, and courage is rarely commented on. Adding to its appeal for the Athenians was the colony of small owls that roosted in the nooks of the Acropolis, the highest point in that city then and now, where they likely did yeoman's work clearing the surrounding area of rodent pests. A dead owl nailed to an ancient Roman doorway was meant to ward off evil. Outside Greece, their haunting night cries, and thanks to the design of their unique feathers, their silent flight made owls more sinister agents. Though the Roman god of sleep, Hypnos, commonly took the form of an owl, Romans generally considered them more ominous and less sacred than the Greeks. It's notable that the Romans, who otherwise mimicked Greek culture whenever possible, gave owls more malign qualities, raising the eagle as their imperial totem animal instead. Owls were said to have prophesied the killing of Julius Caesar, a tale illuminated by William Shakespeare in his classic eponymous tragedy, writing, "Yesterday the bird of night did sit, even at noonday upon the marketplace, hooting and shrieking," and that's from Act 1, Scene 3. The owls did not build nests, but instead they roost in hidden nooks of trees and buildings. This also likely set them apart from other birds in the estimation of our ancestors. In Northern Europe, owls seen living in sacred oak trees were thought to have mystical powers beyond mere wisdom. For the Norsemen, these hunters who could see in the dark were considered spirit guides, leading souls after death to their destinations in the afterworld. It should come as no surprise then, as Catholicism gradually encompassed Europe, the more sinister Roman characteristics of owls held sway. As pagan customs and holidays gave way to the Christian calendar, owls became the companions of witches. Instead of guiding souls to the afterlife, the birds were considered to be sure signs of ghosts and earthly decay. It is altogether notable that the reservoirs of ancient respect given owls allowed them to hold on to their status as agents of wisdom and guidance, even as they were demonized. Today, you will see cardboard cartoon owls decorating walls at Halloween parties and school graduation celebrations alike. For some reason, no one finds this particularly odd. It should come as no surprise that owls figure prominently in the lore of the native people of North America. Interestingly, these cultures so far removed from the streams of Indo-European migration also broadly consider owls messengers of impending death, as well as guides for the souls of the departed to the next world. The Ojibwa people, for example, call the span connecting this world to the next one the Owl Bridge. For native people, owl feathers and other remains have totemic powers to stave off sleep and help watch for enemies at night. In one variety of indigenous creation myth, day was divided from night by a contest between rabbit and owl, and I find that interesting because we read about how the beasts and the birds were competing in an earlier tale. As might be expected, the small burrowing owl, a species that takes up residence in vacant rodent dens and whose territory stretches from Alberta, Canada to Argentine Patagonia, is sacred to the Hopi people, not only as an ambassador from the underworld, but one in charge of, among other things, the germination of plants in the spring. That's so interesting. He goes on to mention that probably all the readers of his article are already aware that any survey of mystic owls needs to include a talk about Hogwarts in the Harry Potter stories and the owl assigned to the kids. So as seen in the films drawn from that series, the owls, which act as supernatural messengers, range from Harry's snowy owl Hedwig to burrowing screech gray and eagle owls. Certainly the films invoke the mystery and awe surrounding the birds very adroitly and probably explain the crowds that gathered around a snowy owl that found its way to Los Angeles in early 2023. My own academic owl, high in that tree overlooking the river in Ohio, was the last one I would see for a long time. Occasionally, when living in New York, I'd spot a distinctive silhouette perched on the ledge of a high building, only to be disappointed to realize it was in fact an inflatable replica meant to discourage any local bevy of rock doves, that is, pigeons, from congregating nearby. After decades of big city life, I came to live in a small town in Montana and am pleased to report that every so often, late on cold nights, I will hear the hooting of what I presume is another great horned owl. At least that's the bird I saw at the top of the microwave tower across the street from my home as dusk was turning into night a few years ago. As for the birds back at my alma mater, I was astonished to learn long after graduating that the name of the river I was so used to admiring, Kokosing, is drawn from the Delaware Indian word meaning a place for owls. When the time came in 2022 to change the very engendered names of the college's men and women's sports teams, the choice of a new one was put to a vote. Students and alumni were given several possibilities. I'm pleased to report the hands-down winner. From here on out, I will cheer happily, win or lose, for the Kenyan Owls. The contributing writer, his article, he's the author of The Guitar and the New World, a social history of Americans' roots in music, and he lives in Livingston, Montana. Find links to that article in the show notes. So I told you at the top, I've been reading What an Owl Knows by Jennifer Ackerman lately. It was a gift from my husband, and I hope to have the author on the podcast this year. But in the meantime, I'd love to share bits from her excellent book to increase all of our chances of spotting an owl in our neck of the woods. So I just ask you to picture yourself right now, standing outside. The sun has just set and the sky is bleeding out the last traces of color. Your cones are retiring and your rays are standing on alert. The pellet above you is a steely gray with just the slightest hint of blue. This is a fine moment to witness an owl in your neck of the woods. Even if you're in a busy city, you will have an opportunity. Take a walk through your neighborhood. When you approach a high tree, look down. Yeah, look to the place where the trunk bends into the soil. Do you see splashes of white? That's called whitewash or possibly owl poo. Do you notice any banana-shaped lumps? Are they furry? Those are owl pellets, the remnants of bone and fur, undigested and coughed up by a resident owl. Now, let your gaze come up to your natural eye level. Go ahead and continue that walk as you scan the surroundings for perching places. Think like an owl. Where would it be comfortable to sit in the shadows and stretch out your massive wings before a night of hunting? Fence tops, electric wires, rooftops, a signpost. Next, look up towards the tree line or above the buildings in your locale. Do you see the silhouette of an owl? I spotted one on a treetop. He was almost like a Christmas tree topper last summer. He was appraising the world before his work began in earnest that night. So watch for activity also from smaller birds, opportunistic crows or magpies. Are they squawking and swooping in a group? That sometimes means something good is happening. That means they're riled up because maybe an owl is around, and these guys are excited at the possibility of scoring an errant morsel from an owl's successful kill. Then shift your attention from your visual senses to your hearing. Listen, if you stand in silence after the sun is set for maybe 10 minutes, you might be rewarded with a hoot. And then if you can keep from rushing to your phone to text someone what's just happened, yeah, I know it's difficult. I have such a hard time doing that. Stay still though and stay silent. You might be rewarded with a far off answer. So keep still for another 5 minutes, and if you can stand it, because big patience payoff is right there. You may see the closer owl swoop past you, landing on a new perch point, followed by his far-off mate a breath or so later. What you won't hear is any wing flapping noise for all the reasons we talked about earlier. Those owl feathers that are engineered with frayed or fringed ends, meant to be nearly silent in flight. And the whoosh, some call that owl wind, which I think is so beautiful. Owl wind. Because our best chance to see owls is at day's end, it's important to get outside and let your eyes adjust to the lack of light. You will see more, not as much as an owl, but you'll see a lot more if you let your eyes adjust. When I've rushed outside, shifting from the bright lights of my house to a near darkness in the backyard, I haven't been able to see much, but I still listen. And then I walk on near tiptoes to check the places in our neighborhood that our owl loves to perch and has perched in the past. I encourage you to give watching for owls a try. Each evening, you'll learn the rhythms a little bit better, detect patterns, and I hope you'll find success. And I also encourage you to research your local Audubon Society for more tips for your specific geolocation. I have one final owl story that I observed last spring. Okay, we have a lot of magpies around, and they can be a little bit annoying for people. They're kind of loud, right? And they're kind of persistent. So I was watching an owl who, it was not quite sunset yet. Actually, it was pretty well lit. He was sitting on a fence, and he was just taking that moment to stretch out his owl wings before the night came. And a magpie came and sat to his left, and he was just looking up at the owl and just squawking and squawking and squawking. The owl turned his head and looked down, and I don't know if he made a noise, but he gave a look like, I'm giving you one warning. And then he turned away, started stretching his wings again, and the magpie kept at it, squawking and squawking at this owl's face. And the owl turned, looked at the bird, and swallowed him whole. Yeah, he warned him first. I watched that happen. Thanks for indulging my love of the mysterious, the powerful, and enigmatic owl. One final quote that sticks to my ribs before we part, quote, "Birds move between earth and sky, day and night. So who better to turn to for clues?" End quote. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. Until next week, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science, and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.